Have you ever stood in the quiet aftermath of a broken conversation, wondering how something so warm could turn so cold so quickly? Have you asked yourself if it's even possible to bring back the feeling of love, not over months or years, but instantly? The truth is this: your relationship will be instantly healed the moment you dare to assume it is already whole. You do not wait for time. You do not ask for them to change. You do not require a grand apology. You simply enter the inner state where the relationship is exactly as you desire it to be, and you live from that state in full conviction. There is no healing greater than changing your inner assumption. You are not to think of what should be said or what should be done. You are to become the person who already possesses the healed relationship. That shift in self-perception, in identity, is the bridge that connects the visible and the invisible. In the dimension of feeling, there is no time. There is only acceptance. When you feel as though something is already true, reality must eventually reflect that back to you, even if appearances suggest otherwise in the moment. One night, as I sat in the dark, I felt the ache of separation more than words could express. There were no more calls, no more messages, no more hope, it seemed. Yet in that still moment, I chose to surrender to the truth I had once read, but had not fully accepted, that my imagination was the creative force of all things. And so I closed my eyes and no longer saw the person as distant or bitter. I saw her laughing. I saw her holding my hand. I allowed my inner world to rewrite the narrative without needing her permission. I felt the warmth of connection and I allowed it to saturate my entire being. That moment changed everything. Within days, the most unexpected event occurred. She contacted me with a softness I had forgotten was possible. No struggle, no chase, just assumption fulfilled. This is not magic. This is law. The world you experience is not separate from your inner world. Your outer relationships are shaped entirely by the inner conversations and emotions you habitually dwell in. The words you hear in your mind, the reactions you entertain, the stories you tell yourself before sleep. These are the architects of your experiences. If you hold on to the idea that healing must take time, or that someone must come to you first, you limit the creative flow. But when you dissolve those conditions and simply assume that the healing is already done, you unlock a new dimension of possibility. To heal instantly, you must live in the end. This means feeling the reality of reconciliation even before the outer scene changes. You must walk as though the conflict never occurred. You must speak as though the love never left. You must look into their eyes in imagination and feel the affection restored, not as something to come, but as something that already is. This is not denial. It is divine revision. You are not ignoring facts. You are changing the cause from which facts are born. And here is where most fail. They look outward too soon. They imagine the healed relationship for a few moments, then look to the phone for a message or to the door for a return. When nothing happens, they doubt, they reverse, and they re-enter the state of lack. The healing does not fail. The assumption is simply not persisted in. You must understand that persistence in the assumption of love is the very power that compels the outer form to reshape. You are not waiting for results. You are embodying results now, regardless of what eyes can see. This healing begins within you. You are not restoring someone else. You are restoring yourself to the awareness of unity, harmony, and completeness. When you become aligned with this state, the other, if they truly reflect your inner world, will come into harmony too. And if they do not, someone else will, because you will no longer accept less than the state of love you dwell in. You don't fix relationships by controlling the other. You fix them by transforming your concept of self and assuming the role of the one who is already loved, already chosen, already secure. This kind of energy healing is not found in rituals or long affirmations. It is not about repeating phrases endlessly with hope that something will click. It is about assumption. It is about knowing. It is about slipping into the felt experience of what you desire and letting that internal feeling become the new command to the universe. From that state, all things are drawn to you. You do not chase healing. You become healing. You do not beg for love. You express it from within and watch it echo back to you in the faces of others. Every moment you imagine lovingly is a moment that shifts the timeline of your life. You may not see it immediately, but it is working beneath the surface. The phone call, the apology, the smile, the reunion, all are being arranged behind the curtain, waiting on one thing, your inner conviction. The instant you say it is done and feel the relief of it being done, the law begins to work with urgency to bring your world into alignment with your belief. And so, if you desire to heal your relationship now, not later, not after therapy, not after proving your worth, simply go within, create the scene that implies the relationship is restored. Enter it in your imagination. Feel the joy of connection, the sweetness of peace, and then persist. Walk in your daily life as though nothing was ever broken. The more real this inner world becomes to you, the more swiftly the outer must conform. To live in a world of broken connections is not your inheritance. You were never created to struggle for love, nor to chase affection as if it were separate from you. The truth is that all relationship healing begins when you return to the awareness that you are the source of the love you seek. Everything that appears outside of you is a reflection of the state you dwell in. So if you believe that harmony has returned, even in the face of silence or misunderstanding, you plant the seed of restoration. That seed, when nourished with emotional conviction, will sprout in the most natural and effortless way. People often speak of healing relationships as if it requires the other party to agree, to talk, to come forward, but the reality is this: the other cannot be different from the assumption you carry about them. If you hold them in your mind as distant, angry, or unloving, then you trap them in that image. The moment you revise that image and choose to see them as already kind, already understanding, already reaching for you, that is the moment the healing begins. And it is instantaneous, because the only thing that ever stood between you and love was your unwillingness to accept its presence now. When you desire to heal, you must withdraw attention from what your eyes show you. The outer world is but a delayed echo of inner belief. If you continue to replay the hurtful words or disappointing behavior, you relive the wound and regenerate the conflict. But if instead you boldly step into the vision of unity and remain loyal to it, then the outer scene must eventually melt away and reform to match the new vibration you have chosen. This is how you raise your relationship vibration. You shift the energy by assuming the love already exists, even before it's visible. To restore love through imagination requires nothing but attention and emotion. Imagine yourself sitting across from the one you love. Hear the tone of peace in their voice. Feel their eyes soften as they look at you. Let the words they say reflect warmth, affection, and clarity. Make it real within you. Make it vivid. Make it personal. And above all, feel it. For the world is moved not by surface thoughts, but by emotional saturation. What you feel to be true is what becomes true, not just in your body, but in your outer world. There is no force more powerful in the healing of a relationship than the assumption of peace. Peace does not begin with words exchanged. It begins in the inner silence, where you rewrite the emotional script. The person who hurt you no longer holds that identity in your inner world. You've revised them, you've transformed them, and by doing so, you free them to show up differently in your life. If you persist, they must reflect your new belief, for they have no choice but to play the part you've inwardly cast them in. This is not imagination as fantasy, this is imagination as causation. What you imagine with belief and persistence must become the world you walk in. So when you choose to imagine the one you love returning with forgiveness in their heart, you're not creating something unreal. You are calling forth what already exists in potential and giving it life through your sustained attention. And what is given life in the unseen becomes inevitable in the seen. You may say, but I remember the arguments, I remember the pain. Yes, but that memory only lives because you revisit it. What if you chose to remember something else? What if, in your quiet moments, you saw only the laughter, the connection, the unity? What if the new story replaced the old one so completely that the past lost all power? Then, and only then, would the present begin to bend. Because what you dwell upon is what the world takes as instruction. There is nothing in your outer relationship that cannot be healed through inner transformation. The body responds, the voice changes. The opportunities to meet again arise. But these things do not come because you wish for them. They come because you prepared a place for them in the unseen. You have assumed your role as the one who is already loved, already forgiven, already reconnected. And from this state, love must reflect itself back in form. This is emotional healing through assumption. It is not about fixing what's broken. It is about revealing what is whole. You were never meant to suffer for love. Love is the natural expression of your being. And when you awaken to this truth, you stop asking when they will call, when they will return. You begin to feel the relationship as already restored. You dwell in the peace of it. And in that stillness, the law begins to unfold. Things happen, people speak, circumstances realign, but not because you forced them, because you felt them before they appeared. Let this be your practice. Before sleep, go to the end. Assume that all is well. See your loved ones smiling. Hear their voice again. Let the scene in your mind be so rich in detail that you lose awareness of where you are. Let that inner movie play until your heart is convinced. That conviction is the spark. That is the moment the relationship begins to heal. Not later, not after they text, but now. Because you have chosen it to be so. The moment you realize that the state you occupy inwardly is the only true influence over your experience, everything begins to shift. Most believe that relationships change through external dialogue, communication, action, compromise, but these are only the final echoes of what has been long decided in imagination. It is not the outer conduct that heals, it is the inner state assumed and maintained, regardless of outer appearances, that causes healing to emerge. This is why transformation is always an inward affair. You are not waiting for someone else to act differently. You are accepting that your assumption has already changed the script of reality. To live from the end is not simply to hope that love will return. It is to know it already has, and to behave as one who is no longer needing proof. The need for evidence is the denial of belief. When you assume the healed relationship and walk through life as one who is already restored in love, then love comes rushing back to meet you in the form of your chosen person. They may say things that reflect what you imagined. They may appear at your door with words you have already heard in silence. But it was not them that changed. It was your state, and they followed. When you restore connection using imagination, you do so with confidence, not desperation. There is no begging in true creation. There is only knowing. And that knowing is not stiff or rigid. It is quiet, relaxed, and secure. You don't need to affirm that love is returning every hour. You simply allow the vision to saturate your being once with such emotional clarity that it imprints upon your soul. And once you have accepted it inwardly, the outer must comply. Not because of effort, but because law demands reflection. Let us speak plainly. If you believe someone is distant from you, and you continue to feel that distance, no matter how many loving words you say, you will keep experiencing separation. If instead you close your eyes and for a moment dwell in the energy of complete union, where love is flowing freely, where all wounds have dissolved, then you become the embodiment of that state. And it is your embodiment that draws the experience to you. The person must return, must soften, must reflect your internal conviction. But the outer world will test your faith. There may be silence after your assumption. There may be behaviors that seem opposite to what you imagined, but none of it matters. It is merely the residue of your previous state. If you persist, not with strain, but with steadiness, the old must fall away. You are not reacting to what is, you are resting in what is becoming. And what is becoming is shaped entirely by what you are now assuming to be true. This is why vibrational alignment in relationships is not a technique but a state. You cannot fake it. You cannot pretend peace while feeling turmoil. You must go within until the turmoil dissolves, until the story you once clung to loses all emotional charge, until the image of harmony becomes more real than the history of pain. Then and only then will the mirror change. There is a subtle art to remaining loyal to the unseen. It requires no force, no control, only quiet confidence. In this stillness you become magnetic. The one who seemed gone forever returns. The bond that felt severed is restored, but not because you changed the world, because you changed your self-concept. You are no longer the one abandoned, the one hurt, the one chasing. You are the one loved, the one chosen, the one complete. And your world reshapes to prove it.
The more you persist in this state, the more stable your outer world becomes. You no longer swing between hope and despair because you are anchored in the reality of the fulfilled desire. You speak from the energy of it already being done. You interact with others without fear because the one you desire is already yours in consciousness. This is the essence of healing, not waiting for time, but assuming now. You can begin today. Even in the middle of chaos, you can enter the sanctuary of your imagination and feel what it would be like if everything were already resolved. Let that vision be so alive that it colors your mood, shapes your thoughts, and softens your speech. Speak differently, not because you are pretending, but because you are now being. From this state, the past loses power and the present reforms around your inner truth. You do not need their permission to feel loved. You do not need their message to know they are thinking of you. In the unseen, all is already yours. Your imagination is the script and your emotion is the ink. Once you have written the story in your inner world and felt it to be real, the outer world becomes a reader of your belief. It turns page by page, scene by scene, until what you imagined becomes what you live. If you desire healing, then you must become healing, not by changing your words, but by assuming a new identity. One who is never separate, one who is never ignored, one who is always deeply loved and welcomed. This identity, worn daily like a garment, changes everything. People shift, circumstances range, paths open, not by force, but by vibrational law. The relationship you thought was broken is not broken at all. It is waiting for you to return to the state where it already exists in perfect peace. The moment you understand that every outer gesture of reconciliation is born in the unseen realm of your own consciousness, you unlock the true secret of lasting healing. Words may be offered with sincerity, gifts may be extended with generosity, yet if your inner conviction remains anchored in doubt or fear, the relationship will continue to mirror that insecurity. Real healing begins not in the turn of a phrase or the clasp of a hand, but in the silent chambers of your own mind where belief is forged. You must first become the embodiment of the healed state you desire before any outer form can reflect that transformation. Consider how often you have waited for an apology, replaying conversations in your head and analyzing every word, only to discover that the apology you crave never arrived. In that waiting, you reinforce the absence of peace. However, when you shift focus inward and choose to honor the feeling of forgiveness as though it has already occurred, you rewrite the very pattern from which all experiences flow. In your imagination, feel the weight lift from your chest as you look into their eyes with understanding. Feel the warmth of acceptance in your bones. Hold that state until it eclipses every trace of past hurt, and you will find that the outer world can no longer sustain the old story. To inhabit the state of healed love is to transcend the tyranny of external events. You do not deny the past, you simply deprive it of power by refusing to revisit it with emotion. Instead, you pour your attention into the reality you wish to live. You imagine the calm smile, the gentle tone, the heartfelt embrace. And in that vivid inner scene, you plant a seed so potent that it will germinate in the world of form. This is energy healing at its core, the deliberate redirection of your emotional energy from what has been to what will be. There is a subtle distinction between wishing for peace and assuming it. Wishing is passive, a hopeful glance toward a distant possibility. Assuming is active, a decisive placement of your consciousness into the end result. When you assume unity, you cease to question its arrival. You walk through your day as though harmony already exists, infusing every interaction with the certainty of restored connection. You speak differently because your voice carries no trace of pleading. You move differently because your posture radiates confidence. And this unspoken language of your being becomes the catalyst that draws others back into resonance with you. Nothing external can prevent the unfolding of what has been firmly established within. Even if days pass without any sign from the other person, the healing you have sown in your inner world is quietly gathering momentum. Patience in the unseen is not boredom, it is faith in the creative power you have employed. You do not drift back into old patterns because you have undergone an internal revision so complete that there is no longer a temptation to revert. You become the living proof that a healed relationship is not an eventuality. It is a present reality in your consciousness. You might ask, how do I sustain this inner state when the outer world keeps pulling me back into doubt? The answer lies in habitual practice. Each morning, before the demands of the day begin, close your eyes and recreate the scene of reconciliation. Hear the voice speak words of affirmation. Feel the touch that conveys forgiveness. Let that state of consciousness linger long enough to color your mood and shape your expectations. Throughout your day, return to that feeling whenever you notice tension or worry stirring in your mind. With each return, you reinforce the new template, making it ever more dominant. There will be moments when the old fear surfaces, when you catch yourself wondering if you have acted too soon or if you have been naive. In those moments, gently remind yourself that the unseen does not operate by the rules of the visible. It operates by imagination and feeling. It does not require logical proof, only the willingness to rest calmly in the truth you choose. Trust that the law of assumption works in perfect silence, orchestrating events behind the scenes until your inner conviction can no longer be denied in the outer sphere. Remember that your consciousness is the soil from which every relationship springs. If that soil is fertile with love, understanding, and acceptance, then the flowers of connection will bloom inevitably. If that soil is dry and filled with resentment, no amount of external effort will yield lasting harmony. To heal your relationship instantly, cultivate your inner world as though you were tending a precious garden. Nourish it daily with visions of unity, protect it from the weeds of doubt, and celebrate every small sign of growth as evidence of your inner labor. In time, you will look back and realize that the most profound change did not occur in their behavior, but in your own state of being. You will recognize that by healing yourself, by assuming the position of being the one who is already loved and forgiven, you rewrote the script of your shared story. And as you carry that awareness forward, you no longer depend on external circumstances for your peace. You become the living demonstration of the power of consciousness. And in that demonstration, all relationships around you are drawn into harmony, one by one. Energy healing with visualization is not a passive daydream, but an active engagement of your consciousness in the realm where all creation originates. When you close your eyes and vividly imagine the two of you reunited in warmth and understanding, you are tuning into the frequency of love itself. In that stillness, you generate waves of energy that radiate outward, affecting the unseen threads that bind hearts together. This process is not about fabricating a false scenario. It is about accessing the deeper truth of what already exists in possibility. Through energy healing with visualization, you become the conductor of your relational symphony, shaping the notes of forgiveness, compassion, and joy in the unseen before they appear in form. To engage in energy healing, you must first master the art of emotional saturation. It is not enough to hold a mental picture. You must immerse yourself in the feeling of restored connection until your body responds. Feel the flutter of excitement as laughter returns, the comforting weight of an embrace, the sparkle of recognition in their eyes. Let these sensations flow through every cell. The outer world is moved not by neutral thoughts, but by emotional charge. When you saturate your imagination with the energy of reunion, you send a clear signal to the universe that the healing is complete. And the universe responds by rearranging events to match your inner conviction. Specific person healing through the law of assumption is a delicate dance between desire and surrender. You do not wrest control from another's free will. You transform the magnetic field that governs attraction by assuming the inner state of someone who is already loved by the person you desire. You create an invisible contract that draws them into alignment with your new vibration. This is not manipulation. It is the natural response of consciousness to mirror what is most dominant within you. The more consistently you maintain this state, the more certain you become that the other will reflect it without question. Vibrational alignment in relationships requires that you treat your imagination as a workshop of harmonics. Each thought, each feeling, and each moment of visualization becomes a tuning fork that resonates with matching experiences. When you align your energy with peace, faith, and affection, every encounter begins to echo those vibrations. You find that conversations flow effortlessly, misunderstandings dissolve before they arise, and shared moments feel like an extended embrace. This is not coincidence. It is the predictable outcome of vibrational alignment when you live from the frequency of restored unity. Love manifestation techniques often focus on affirmations or ritual, but true mastery lies in the seamless blend of imagination and emotion. Instead of repeating phrases without engagement, you step into a scene and live it. You imagine a walk together, a heartfelt conversation, a gesture of care so vivid that your senses forget the physical world for a moment. This technique bypasses resistance because the mind cannot distinguish between a deeply felt vision and reality. By mastering this method, you harness the energy that animates every relationship and direct it toward the healing you seek. Emotional healing through assumption is the cornerstone of all transformation. You do not wait for the other person to apologize. You forgive in advance. You do not demand that they prove devotion. You feel devotion yourself. When you assume the emotional state of unconditional love, you release the anchors of past grievances. This release creates a vacuum that the universe fills with evidence of love. Unexpected messages, acts of kindness, renewed closeness. Each sign becomes a reinforcement of your internal assumptions, strengthening your belief and accelerating the healing process. To practice energy healing with visualization, set aside a few moments each day in a quiet space, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and call to mind the image of reconciliation. Imagine the precise details, the tone of voice, the expression on their face, the warmth of their presence. Feel the joy, relief, and gratitude as though the moment were happening now. Hold this state until your emotions and thoughts align completely with the scene. Then release it without hesitation, trusting that the forces you have engaged are already weaving your inner world into the fabric of reality. The most profound energy healing occurs when you persist without visible evidence. Resistance may whisper that nothing has changed, but that is merely the curtain before the miracle. Continue to restore the mental picture of unity, continue to practice love manifestation techniques, and continue to hold the vibrational alignment that feels real. Your inner work is the invisible hand that guides outer events. When you embrace this truth and apply it daily, you become the living demonstration of relational transformation, and your relationship will indeed be instantly healed. The moment you decide that no outer circumstance can negate the state you choose within, you step into true mastery of your relational destiny. There will be times when silence greets you instead of warmth, when familiar patterns of distance resurface, and when your senses scream that nothing has changed. In those moments, do not mistake the persistence of old appearances for final reality. Instead, calmly reaffirm the assumption that the healing is complete. Know that every moment you return to that inner conviction, you strengthen the new vibration, and the outer world, bound by the law of assumption, must eventually conform. Faith in this process is not blind, it is informed by the unshakable principle that imagination is causation. You do not need to see evidence before you feel. You simply feel first, and evidence follows. Imagine yourself resting in absolute peace, as though the one you love is already by your side in perfect harmony. Feel the color of their presence, the texture of conversation, the ease of mutual understanding. Let this state become your default. Whenever doubt arises, see it as an opportunity to deepen your commitment rather than a sign to abandon your practice. Persistence in the unseen is cultivated through repetition and resolve. Each time you catch your attention wandering into lack, replaying old arguments or replaying fears, gently but firmly bring it back to the scene of reunion. Treat your mind like a garden, uproot the weeds of doubt, and plant seeds of love in their place. This mental discipline is not harsh, it is an act of compassion toward yourself and your relationship. Over time, the new belief system becomes second nature, and you no longer need to force the practice. You simply live from the assumption organically. Guarding your mental diet is equally crucial. What you allow into your mind through conversation, media, or idle thought shapes the soil in which your relational reality grows. Avoid dwelling on stories of heartbreak or setbacks. Instead, feed your mind uplifting images and words that support the reality you desire. Read descriptions of joyful unions, listen to stories of reconciliation, and surround yourself with any content that reinforces harmony. By curating your inner environment, you ensure that your imaginal acts remain potent and that your energetic field vibrates exclusively with the frequency of healed love. Discouragement may still whisper that you are deceiving yourself or that the other person will never return. When that voice speaks, do not engage it in debate. Simply acknowledge it and return to your inner scene. Forgive yourself for any lapse in faith, and then proceed as though no interruption occurred. This pattern of silent forgiveness, of swiftly forgiving your own doubts, frees you from the grip of past failures. It signals to the universe that you are no longer interested in the old narrative and that you are steadfast in your new identity as the one who is already cherished. Embrace your identity as a magnet for love. Walk, speak, and think as though the relationship has been healed for years. Let your posture reflect ease. Let your conversation carry warmth. Let your thoughts be laced with gratitude. Others will sense this shift in you. They will unconsciously mirror your inner peace and begin to treat you accordingly. This alignment is not manipulation, it is the natural law of attraction in play. When you embody the state of wholeness, you radiate an invitation that no heart can resist. Remember that the healing you create does not stop with one relationship. It ripples outward, affecting every interaction you have. As you perfect this practice, you will find that friends, family members, and even strangers respond to your elevated vibration. You become a living testament to the power of consciousness, and your entire world grows more harmonious. Yet the most profound transformation always begins in the quiet pockets of your mind, where you dare to imagine the impossible and persist in that vision until form appears. So let this be your daily devotion. Return again and again to the feeling of complete reunion. Do not count the seconds or measure the progress. Simply rest in the knowledge that what you assume with conviction is already done. Over time, you will look back and marvel that a moment of inner decision could catalyze such sweeping change. In that realization, you will see that the only true healer is the consciousness that dared to believe. And in your example, countless others will find the courage to believe as well. Every relationship you experience serves as a mirror, reflecting back to you the beliefs you hold most deeply, often without your conscious awareness. In every encounter, in every gesture, you are not simply responding to another individual, you are witnessing an exact reproduction of your inner state. If you believe that you are unlovable, that belief will appear before you in various forms: cold expressions, dismissive words, or emotional distance. Conversely, when you hold the conviction that you are cherished, that conviction ripples outward and shapes every interaction into an expression of warmth and acceptance. It is this mirror-like quality of relationships that offers you a direct and unambiguous pathway to healing. Change your inner belief, and the outer reflection must change accordingly. This mirror is not a passive object, but a dynamic, living process. It adapts moment by moment to whatever you project inwardly. When you replay memories of conflict or replay fears of rejection, you feed the mirror with images that reinforce separation and discord. The same mechanism that brings discord can be repurposed to restore harmony. When you deliberately choose to focus on the belief that love is present, that belief saturates your consciousness until it becomes the dominant signal broadcast to your relational world. The mirror cannot help but return what you send. Its very nature is responsive, not resistant. To understand this fully, imagine your mind as a screen on which you project a film. If the film is one of breakup and blame, you will experience scenes that play out exactly that story in your relationships. If you project a film of forgiveness, reunion, and mutual understanding, the relationships in your life will shift to match that script. You do not need to wait for the other person to alter their behavior first. You simply change the film in your mind. As your projection changes, the relationship mirror realigns to the new imagery, reflecting back a transformed experience. Most people overlook this power because they believe that healing requires external validation, a verbal apology, a gesture of kindness, or some act that signals the other's change of heart. Yet these external tokens are but echoes of what has already occurred within. The true work is invisible, residing in the choices you make about what to think and feel when you are alone, when no one else is watching. The moment you decide that your relationship is healed in consciousness and you genuinely believe it, the mirror of your reality begins to shift instantly. What once appeared as evidence of separation melts away, and encounters take on a new quality of connection. Let's consider a practical example. You might be in the habit of recalling an argument when you feel the slightest tension. Each recall reinforces the idea that division defines your relationship. To break this cycle, you must interrupt the replay. The next time tension arises, instead of revisiting the argument, imagine a moment of peace, a warm smile, a hug, a shared laugh. Feel the relief of that moment in every cell of your body. Hold it until it becomes more vivid than the memory of conflict. By doing so, you overwhelm the old recording with a new one. The mirror, being ever responsive, will then begin to reflect moments of reconciliation rather than separation. This process requires neither force nor effort in the conventional sense. It is not about pushing away thoughts of hurt, but about inviting in thoughts of harmony that are so powerful they naturally displace the negativity. You cultivate this by consistently practicing the new mental movie, especially at times when the old emotional patterns seek to regain control. With repetition, the new pattern becomes the default. Your mind ceases to wander into old grievances and instead automatically shifts toward the scenes of understanding you have chosen to nourish. Pitfalls arise when expectations become rigid or when you question the validity of the new inner belief. Doubt is simply a signal that the old habit is still alive. When doubt surfaces, acknowledge it without drama, then deliberately return to the feeling of restored unity. This act of gentle realignment strengthens your conviction and deepens the new imprint on your consciousness. Over time, the need to consciously realign decreases because your inner environment has been transformed so thoroughly that the new state becomes self-sustaining. As the mirror of your relationships shifts, you will notice subtle yet unmistakable changes. The tone of conversation softens, opportunities for shared joy arise spontaneously, even small gestures, an unexpected text, a kinder glance become clear signs that your inner work is manifesting outwardly. These signs are not the goal, but rather confirmation that the mirror is faithfully reflecting your revised beliefs. They encourage you to persist in the unseen until the outer circumstances fully align. Importantly, this mirror principle extends beyond romantic partnerships. Every person you meet bears the imprint of your internal world. The family member whose mood reflects your own, the colleague whose tension echoes your stress, the friend whose warmth matches your joy. By mastering this principle in one relationship, you gain a tool to transform every connection in your life. You become the artist of your relational landscape, painting with the colors of your chosen beliefs and watching as the mirror of life returns a masterpiece of harmony. Cultivating awareness of this mirror effect is the first step. Notice the patterns in your relationships and recognize them as reflections of your inner dialogue. Then step into the role of the conscious creator. Actively choose beliefs that serve the healed state you wish to experience. Practice feeling those beliefs until they saturate your being, and watch with calm expectancy as the mirror of your world realigns itself to your new inner truth, revealing a tapestry of relationships that mirror the love, peace, and unity you have assumed within. The moment you decide to step beyond mere hope and into the reality of a healed relationship is the moment you ignite the creative force that brings your innermost vision into form. To manifest a genuine relationship breakthrough, you must treat your imagination as the workshop of creation and your emotions as the fuel that powers it. Begin by selecting one clear, vivid scene in which harmony has been restored, perhaps the two of you sharing a genuine laugh or holding hands in mutual understanding. Envision every detail, the soft lighting of the room, the sound of her voice, the gentle warmth of her touch. Engage all your senses so fully that the imagined moment feels indistinguishable from reality. Once the scene is firmly in your mind, direct your attention to the emotional essence it evokes. Allow gratitude to swell within your chest, relief to flood your nerves, and joy to light every corner of your being. Breathe deeply and let each inhale draw that feeling deeper into yourself, while each exhale releases any residue of doubt or fear. This emotional saturation transforms passive visualization into active creation, sending ripples of healing energy through the unseen threads that connect you both. The more you can feel the scene as real, the more your inner state will compel outer circumstances to align. Consistency is essential. Carve out time twice a day, upon waking and before sleeping, to revisit your chosen scene. These transitional moments are gateways to the subconscious, where your convictions are most readily impressed. Sit quietly, free from distraction, and replay the scene until it pulses with life inside you. If contrary thoughts arise, regard them as outdated echoes of the past and gently return your focus to the new reality you are cultivating. With each repetition, your inner world grows more fertile, and the breakthrough you desire moves ever closer to tangible expression. To carry this new state into your daily life, introduce subtle anchors, a ring on your finger, a photograph on your desk, or a meaningful word scrawled on a sticky note. Each time you glimpse these reminders, pause for a heartbeat to recall your scene and the accompanying emotion. This brief mental return prevents you from slipping back into old patterns of doubt and keeps your energy attuned to restored you. Over time, these anchors train your mind to inhabit the healed state automatically, even amid the busiest moments. Watch for synchronicities as you practice. Perhaps a long forgotten song drifts through the air at just the right moment, or an unexpected gesture of kindness from your partner mirrors the very scene you have imagined. These seemingly chance occurrences are the universe's way of confirming your breakthrough. Never dismiss them as coincidence. See them as signposts that your inner work is rippling outward. Celebrate each one, for they reinforce your conviction and accelerate the unfolding of your desired reality. Mastery emerges when you can sustain your inner state regardless of external appearances. There will be times when silence greets you instead of warmth, when old habits of distance resurface. In those moments, do not mistake the persistence of the former state for failure. Simply reaffirm the assumption of healing. Revisit your scene, breathe into the feeling of reunion, and let doubt fall away. This act of silent recommitment strengthens your new vibration and signals to the universe that your belief is non-negotiable. Whenever you find yourself stepping into a moment of doubt, remind yourself that you are the conscious architect of your relational reality. Continue to weave the scenes of unity into the fabric of your thoughts. Over time, your inner narrative becomes so familiar that the world outside rearranges itself to mirror the love you have already assumed. And in that ongoing dance between imagination and experience, you will witness the secret of healing not as a destination, but as the living expression of your creative power. Every step you've taken, from dwelling in the end to saturating your imagination with the vivid sensations of reunion, has served one purpose: to prove that the power to heal resides within you. What you assume with feeling, you bring into form. Each imaginal act, each moment of emotional conviction has planted a seed in the unseen realm that cannot help but grow in the world of form. When you persist in the state of restored unity, regardless of outer appearances, you become the living proof that love is not earned, negotiated, or waited upon. It is simply realized. Carry this practice forward as your daily devotion. Whenever doubt or old patterns arise, gently return to the scene you have chosen. Breathe into the feeling of harmony, and let that inner work reshape your expectations. Trust that the bridge of events will form behind the curtain of your awareness, aligning circumstances to mirror your new belief. In time, you will look back and see that the most profound transformation occurred not in another's words or actions, but in your own unshakable conviction. Your relationship's healing is now a matter of continuation, not initiation. The law you have engaged is timeless and unbreakable. Imagination is causation, and feeling is its fuel. Embrace this truth, live from it, and watch as every connection in your life reflects the harmony you have assumed. The authority to restore love lies in your consciousness. Use it and let your transformed reality stand as the testament to the creative power you wield.